Hello and welcome to the 50 Cent Tour of Friday, August 9th, 2013. We made it through another week. Please find a seat on the Liberty Bus and our tour will begin. For our first stop of the day, this is in the context of a larger article that covers more topics, but this is where I want to focus. In the best of the rest of the news, the city of Richmond, California is getting serious about helping struggling homeowners. Yesterday, Mayor Gail McLaughlin announced a controversial plan to use eminent domain to address that city's foreclosure crisis. She said, after years of waiting on the banks to offer up a more comprehensive fix or the federal government, we are stepping into the void to make it happen ourselves. They're going to use eminent domain to obtain houses that are financially in trouble and let people live in them, which is, strictly speaking, I think that Liberty people probably need to be a little concerned about this. However, just because it could set a bad precedent of, taking over properties that somebody perceives as not being properly used, whatever. But the pendulum has swung so far in the direction of favoring banks and corporations over people that if for no other reason, this makes me happy because it's evidence that the pendulum is beginning to swing back and that some government people are realizing that they're not serving the people well and that the approach needs to change. And here's another kind of somewhat related article. Department of Justice admits unintended consequences in drug war and may reduce sentences. Now, we know from the truth and liberty point of view that these consequences were not really unintended. But I don't care what they say. I don't care what their spin is. If they begin to do the right things, I think that is positive change. The war on drugs is now 40 years old, or says. There have been a lot of unintended consequences. There's been a decimation of certain communities, in particular communities of color. Yeah, this is too late for communities like Detroit. But if we consider the long-term scheme that drugs in many respects were introduced to break down families, and especially the criminalization where you have a male who uses drugs, deals drugs, whatever, and is placed in prison. Right there you have a home without a father, and fatherless children do not fare well. Statistically, that is proven. And this, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't unintended consequences. It was intentional consequences. But are we going to see some of these guys? I believe that we're at a pinnacle where we could probably fall in any direction, but I believe that we are beginning to lean toward liberty and justice. And I'm hoping that as we're at this pinnacle, that the weight will tip us, the weight of public opinion and outcry will tip us toward liberty and justice. And I believe that might be starting to happen. If we were to tip the other direction, away from liberty and justice. Encrypted email lava bit used by Snowden shuts down to avoid complicity in crimes against Americans. This is just disappointing and shocking, but these people are not going to give up without a fight. They're so firmly entrenched. Wag the Dog and NSA Production. This is just a brief, fun production of the activist post. It's a video that takes 1 minute 18 seconds to watch. It's essentially a commercial, and it expresses the ideas about what's happening to us with the NSA scandal, and then with the terror alert being elevated. And even your friends who are not liberty people will probably understand this message and probably be able to comprehend and maybe accept it and change their minds about some things. NSA head replace would-be Snowdens with computers to stop future leaks. This is what I was referring to, that that we're at the top of a pinnacle, and guys like this want us to fall back into the tyranny and oppression, even more deeply into that chasm than we find ourselves now. So this is the struggle. These are the kind of people that we're wrestling against, and it's really, in many respects, it's a time crunch. Who will be able to communicate the message? Will the liberty and truth people be able to communicate the message quickly enough to tip everybody away from oppression and tyranny? Or will these people, like this man, be able to institute their programs fast enough to make it ever more difficult for us to achieve liberty and justice? And I think it's helpful to have just a few positive news articles. I have 3 here today, and they're all from Natural News. France confirms it will continue ban on GMO corn despite council ruling. So that's great news. And breastfeeding proven to lower risk of Alzheimer's in moms. That's good news for people who have breastfed their infants, and it's good news for infants whose mothers will read this and know that it is very much mutually beneficial. And for our last stop today on the Liberty Bus, research consistently finds walnut oil effective against type 2 diabetes. So if you know people who are suffering from that disease, it's a horrible wasting disease. It's essentially a lifestyle disease, and there are many natural approaches to it that can help people become well. And walnut oil is yet another one. The tour of the day is a presentation of She Who Will Walk in the Dark Productions, and we thank you for joining us on today's tour. The dawn is coming. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and insist on liberty.